We're addressing your hottest questions on how to study Japanese, and this is more of a cut down video if you didn't make the stream or you just wanted to go back and rewatch it. So enjoy. Hey, I'm about to hit a Core 2K 6K deck on Anki and listen to podcasts when I'm not doing that. Any other suggestions? Well, that's a really good approach. So I actually did a Core 3K. I guess I should say I did 3K out of the Core 2 6K. And yeah, that was good for me. I think that when you're listening to podcasts, optimally, you've probably heard the term comprehensible input go around a lot. So essentially, you want to make sure that the podcast you're listening to isn't like 90% gibberish, right? So let's say that you get maybe 2 to 3K words into that deck. You should be listening to, I would say, easy. I say this easy. It's still a really great achievement that you're able to, listen to any Japanese podcast at all, right? I would say listen to those easier Japanese podcasts. One that I listen to is, I think it's Yuyu no Nihongo Podcasto is what they say. So he lives in Mexico, and they talk about their days, their daily lives. They bring in people to chat, like Japanese people studying abroad in Mexico. So if you just Google it and just look up easy Japanese podcasts, I'd start off with those because then that's going to refresh those vocabularies that you've been picking up in those 2K, 6K Anki decks and reinforce it. And as you go more and more, you're going to be able to pretty much get into more complex podcasts and more suit your interests. How would you wish to learn Japanese if you were starting again? That's a really good question. That is probably one of the most common questions you'll see out there about Japanese, and everyone has their own answers. So just to give a bit of context, I actually started Japanese 6 years ago in high school. So luckily somehow, I had Japanese classes at my high school in Texas, which is like crazy. I would never have expected that. So I just signed up on a whim. We started with these textbooks called Genki 1 and 2. You're probably familiar with those. And that was good. I would say, honestly, Genki 1 was so worth it, in my opinion, because it helped me reinforce how to read hiragana and katakana. And it also helped me get a good, solid foundation of some conjugations. And then I did Genki 2, and the words got rarer and rarer. So maybe you've seen one of my other videos, Chikyou Ondanka, which means global warming. Like, that was in there. There was some other more obscure words that you wouldn't, really do. I think chiri, like geography. I was like, why is this in here? I couldn't even form sentences at that point. So yeah, that was weird. But yeah, I'm getting on a bit of a tangent. But after that, I went off. I didn't study. I actually got to study abroad in Japan. And yeah, I had a host family, and I couldn't speak any Japanese. I could just say, "Kore wa pen desu." This is a pen. And like, "Toire wa doko desu ka?" Where's the toilet? And yeah, so it was really frustrating. So at that point, I came back, and then I went to college, and I immersed for a little bit. I tried this whole AJAT thing, and I burned out because I was like seeing these videos of people like get fluent fast. I immersed for 12 hours a day, and I burnt out. Then I took some college classes. I did Tobira. Tobira, Gateway to Advanced, is another textbook, and yeah, that was something. And that was kind of my study journey. From then on, I actually got more into AJAT, did more research on how to immerse properly without burning yourself out, so studying in a healthy way. I also did RTK for kanji. So here's how I would honestly study Japanese again if I started out. I would recommend learning hiragana and katakana. That would probably be my go-to. So getting those 2 alphabets down, you can get them down. When I say down, I mean you're able to read them while you're still kind of reviewing on your backlog, whether that's through Anki or Quizlet. Because once you do that, you can just start doing your flashcards in hiragana and katakana. And so it's like you don't have to study anymore because your flashcards, you'll be constantly reviewing and reviewing. So yeah, once you get that down, I would say you get the alphabets down. Read a quick grammar guide, literally like some Tai Kim's guide to Japanese grammar, and just scroll through that. And as you do that, you'll kind of get a general idea of like te form and like saying please and conjugating stuff and the different tenses. And then I would say after you do so far, hiragana, katakana, quick grammar guide. Do a core. Someone mentioned in here core 2K, 6K. And also core 1K is even an option, and start doing those. And when those are like, if anyone is not familiar, which is fine, core, like let's just say core 3K. That's the 3,000 most common words in the Japanese language. So if you learn those, like those are the most bang for your buck. And after you've learned the most 3,000 common Japanese words, you can start watching some easy slice of life anime and comprehend like over 80% of them. So it's pretty nice. And you can start learning more words in context. And that's how I would do it. Because like from that point on, you're just going to be consuming more and more content and saving words and making flashcards from real native Japanese content. So basically at that point, you're just going to watch, read, and enjoy stuff. And your vocabulary is going to grow eventually. And you'll learn how to use the words. What's the affiliate software that helps aid your Japanese studying and gives fans of the channel a 10% discount? Genuine question. Haha. Oh, well, thank you for asking that, cooldown. That tool will be Migaku. If you use my affiliate link, migaku.com/JaredDesu, you can get a free month on me or 10% off the lifetime deal. It's a really useful tool, and it's honestly helped me tremendously in my immersion studies. I highly recommend it. And there's no commit, and you can always get a free refund after up to 14 days of using it. There's no harm in checking it out. So go ahead, check it out at migaku.com/JaredDesu. How long did it take you to learn RTK before learning vocabulary, or did you do both? I actually started RTK last year, so kind of late into my Japanese studies. So I learned a lot of vocabulary first, and at this point, I could understand a lot of pretty easy anime, slice of life, rom-com stuff. Probably understand 80 to 90% of it. But with reading, oh my gosh, it was so bad. So yeah, I will link I think I've linked a Reddit thread in my Discord, and I'll link one here eventually. But I just made a physical box of flashcards for RTK. That probably took me around 6 months. I was just doing 20 cards a day, just writing the kanji on the flashcards and going through. And at some point, because of habit and less studying. That is true. Yeah, if you just give it a little bit of time every day and not really set a number also, I find that's helpful. Some people are like, yeah, I have to study 10 hours of Japanese a day. I have to, because that's 3,650 hours a year. And that's awesome. And it's like, you're going to just stress yourself out, man. What do you think about Duolingo? I think it's really helpful for learning the alphabets and getting used to like the sounds in Japanese. But beyond that, the sentences that they have you make are really, and you've probably seen memes and YouTube shorts about this, the sentences they have you put together are like so random and so awkward. Like, I feel like one would just be like, oh, I gave my pet cobra a bath in the shower when it was cloudy outside. When would you ever say that? I do Anki every single day. I'm at 3,500 words learned total. However, I can't really form sentences because I haven't done grammar studying. I know immersion would help, and I do find time to watch videos with Migaku. And I feel like I can understand what they're saying in these easy-ish videos, especially with seeing the Japanese subs and being able to pause. But I need to do some direct grammar study. I also have a paid version of Satori Reader, which is a graded reader. I've heard that's pretty good, which does have a grammar series. What would you say is the single best way that I can study grammar so that I'll know conjugation and other simple grammar rules to be able to form sentences for my Japan trip 3 months from now? I think that I should probably just read through the entire grammar series in Satori Reader and immerse more, but I need to optimize my time since I already have to do Anki each day, which could be hard, and the trip is our honeymoon, so we're busy with wedding planning. I'd just like to hear your suggestions, even if the answer is just immerse, bro. Oh my gosh, just immerse, bro. That is said 1,000 times over in the immersion community. I'm sure everyone here, or at least most of you guys, have probably heard that advice. Back in high school when I took Spanish classes, I always felt like we had such handy conjugation charts and that there weren't too many conjugations to worry about. But with Japanese, it feels like it's not that straightforward. Is that a reasonable thought, or is it simpler than I think? Maybe I'm more of a visual learner, so something like that, which I can have and reference often, would be helpful. That is a pretty solid question. I would say that if you're worried about forming sentences because you're worried about grammar study, if you're doing Anki, a lot of people have this habit, and me myself, I'm not saying that Warrior X6 Senior has it, but I've had this habit myself, where I see the word in my flashcard in my Anki window, and that's it. I can see like the context of it being an Anki. I'm like, oh, I know this word, and I just keep clicking. I don't actually look at the sentence and like think about it and like ask myself, what is the kedo, the but, that means a but in Japanese. What is the kedo doing in this sentence? Or like, what is it affecting? Why does this sentence actually mean this in English? I used to do my reps in Anki just to do them. I think someone commented recently, becoming an Anki droid, like literally just doing cards to do them. So that's one thing. Really think about the sentences. This is going to be a more high level of just immerse, bro. But keep watching those easy-ish Japanese content that you're looking at, but don't fall into the trap where you just watch easy stuff because it's comfortable. Like, if you don't make the effort to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, you're not going to progress as well. So for example, for me, I watched Komi-san Can't Communicate, and I can pretty much sit through that show and enjoy it in Japanese fully. But I've been really wanting to watch Psychopaths and also Meitante Conan, Detective Conan. So those are, like, Conan's probably more of a kid's show, but it has some really specialized vocabulary, and Psychopaths is just like, oh my god, that one's crazy. So, like, I want to watch those. I'm going to legitimately enjoy it. There's going to be more complex vocabulary. So I think it's something that's more worth it. So I would say that the best way that you can study grammar and understand conjugation and simple grammar rules, do a quick read through of Ty's like a grammar guide, like Tai Kim's grammar, and yeah, literally just keep immersing. But make sure you're choosing content that you find interesting and is still like a bit outside of your comfort zone. The only way you're gonna get better at Japanese is by watching harder and harder content, but still matching your level of improvement. JPTB is a really good website. If you want to kind of go and look up like how hard an anime or manga or visual novel is. So that would be my kind of go-to recommendation. I wouldn't worry about conjugations explicitly. If you do want to speak, then I would study them explicitly just for this trip so that you can kind of say them there. But long term, I mean, they're just going to come to you, really, if you do consume enough Japanese material. Reading is definitely going to help you progress the fastest. Only question I have is, where does one read news articles? Does anyone actually immerse in news articles like I have heard? Okay, so there's some good places. NHK News Web Easy is a really good website, especially if your Japanese is, and please forgive me, I'm going to use JLPT levels here. If your JLPT levels around N4 to N3, for context, it's a website that is geared more towards Japanese middle schoolers and elementary schoolers. It's also geared towards foreigners, of course. It takes news articles and makes them using more, I guess, simple, yasashi Japanese. So I recommend that. And then also just NHK News, like the full-blown adult version. I need to immerse with that a bit more, but I can't really piece together much. There's just a lot of stuff on there about tariffs and whatnot. So what is your favorite kanji? Nagi. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of it here. It means like calm or lull. It kind of refers to like ocean. Yeah, it's literally just the stop radical inside of this 3 strokes. I actually don't know what exactly to call this, but what's your motivation to keep learning? That's a really great question. I think for me, initially, my motivation was to, like maybe a lot of people, just like watch anime and like just without subtitles. I thought that'd be the coolest thing. But what really kicked off that motivation is when I went to Japan for my first study abroad, and I went up to Tohoku. I went to a city called Morioka, and that is like in the inaka, the countryside, if you will. Now, while I was here, they didn't speak any English. They had a daughter who spoke some English, which helped, but they didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Japanese, and that was like so frustrating because they had this whole itinerary planned out. We're going out and doing fun stuff. And all I could say is like arigato, like over and over and over again. And just like, we couldn't talk about how fun our times were together. There were both things we wanted to say, but I just couldn't put it into words. And that was really upsetting for me. So that kind of motivated me when I got back to hit the books. I guess I'd say hit the videos, hit the novels, hit the, all the immersion content. So yeah, that's kind of what motivated me. And then what kind of helped further that was I worked at a Japanese grocery store for a bit. I don't know if he's in chat here or they, but I have a couple of friends, coworkers. They're also in the community. But yeah, so I got to talk to some Japanese coworkers, which helped. Then I saved up enough money to go back to see that own host family outside of the program. And oh my gosh, I could speak Japanese. Like not fluently, but like everyday Japanese. And the smile on their faces, I won't forget. Like, and my face, it felt so good to like, I was talking to these people. I'd never talked to them, like actually talked to them. It felt so good. And that trip, I made more Japanese friends and more people, and they were legitimately, more than happy to have like conversations with me in Japanese. I feel like I got a lot of good connections out of it. And so that's really helped me. It's really cool to just kind of see how perspectives could change and how many like awesome friends you can make abroad just by interacting using the language. So yeah, it's a really good feeling because it really, all those hours just sitting at your computer on your phone learning Japanese, when it translates to just like being there in front of people, talking to them and like making friends. Oh my God, it's so worth it for me. So that's kind of what's kept me motivated. I'm a high schooler. Do you have any advice to get into a Japanese university? I would say just keep studying Japanese, secure a N2 certificate at some point. I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but it really helps with scholarships and getting into that. One of my friends, Nico, he's a 7-stop. You may have watched some of his videos. He's another person in the immersion community. He covers this. I would go check out his channel. He has a good interview about this, but yeah, I would say if you get that business certification, start studying more Japanese, talk to people locally. There's usually language meetups with real Japanese people, like in most cities around town. It's what I did when I was back in Texas. And you'd be surprised what connections you can make. There are actually a lot of American people, for me, who were basically fluent in Japanese or near native, and they had jobs at Japanese companies, and I made friends who worked there, and they're like, hey, let me know, if you're interested in working in Japan, I can set you up with an interview. So really just finding some Japanese communities and making your Japanese, more developed in a business sense, I guess. That would be my advice. And also do a bit more research into companies you might like, reach out to them, interact. There's also, where is it? In Massachusetts, I think around November, they do a Japanese collaboration with America, and they have all these Japanese people and Japanese companies fly down and do like a work convention, and you can do like interviews there or like panels. So I would recommend that if you're going to kind of do like the job hunting over in Massachusetts in November. So just something to keep in mind. And yeah, so that's my advice. Get N2 certificate, improve your Japanese, make Japanese friends, and go to the convention in November in Massachusetts. I would look more into that. There's also one in Japan. I mean, there's a lot of ones. I think it's at the same place they have Komaket. What do you think about intensive reading? I think intensive reading is great. It's also very mentally taxing. I used to do it for like 2 hours a day, and it was, I could feel the improvement, but oh my goodness, you could also feel the burnout. Honestly, it's worth it. It's where you're going to make the most progress. But also, although all those intensive lookups can break your sort of reading flow. So if you want to get more reading done, like a higher volume, I recommend just going with the flow. If you choose reading content that you can comprehend 90+% of, you're going to be doing less of those lookups, and you'll understand more of the words just through context. Let's just say that I said, this is blue, right? So you didn't understand one word in that sentence, but it's probably controller, right? So, I mean, that's just another thing. If you comprehend enough of a piece of content, you're probably going to be able to infer most of the words without looking them up explicitly. So do intensive reading on content you can comprehend a good amount of, and do non-intensive reading on content that you may not understand as much of, but you're okay with kind of forgoing some of those lookups. Do you recommend anything to help with kanji recognition? Anki deck. Honestly, RTK, remembering the kanji, is really good by Heisik. If it's easier for you or you don't want to get that intensive with it, I recommend RRTK, which is recognizing, remembering the kanji. So instead of writing out the kanji, you're just looking at it and being like, yes, this means stop, or this means bird, and then going on with your day. That also totally works. あなたの日本語は何年、何level? I did study in Japan, and I lived there for 3 months, and I had like daily conversations, and I was able to function there pretty normally, so I don't know. Not fluent, but I can yap. Let's just say yapping level. I think that's pretty safe to say. How would you recommend someone to learn Japanese if they have a lot of other things to balance? For instance, other languages they want to learn too, work, etc. That question is so good. Oh my gosh. All right, listen. I work a cybersecurity job full-time. I upload daily shorts. I do community posts. I talk in the Discord. I edit videos, long form every week. And I still gotta study Japanese on top of that, because if I don't get good at Japanese, what's the point of my channel? I don't want to trick you guys and have me be mediocre Japanese and teaching you how I got fluent in Japanese when I'm not even half fluent, right? So, I would really say make it a habit. If you find a gap in your day, for me, for example, I will drive 5 minutes to go to Costco offsite at work for an hour, and I'll whip out my laptop, put on the headphones, and just watch YouTube videos and using Migaku. And then I'll get home and I'll put on maybe 1 or 2 episodes of anime that are pretty easy for me to understand, so I'm still getting that immersion in. And I'll maybe, if I'm feeling like it, read 1 or 2 news articles or like 10 pages of a book. Yeah. And anything that I find from there, I'll maybe mine 5 to 10 words and save it to Anki, or I guess in this case, Migaku, and do flashcards. So essentially, it's find the gaps in your day where you're doom scrolling or maybe being distracted or not productive, and use that time to study, even if it's just for 30 minutes to an hour a day. And then the rest of the time, prioritize your health. Don't overdo it. Make sure you're hanging out with your friends and relaxing, because that's also super duper important. You don't want to burn yourself out. You don't want Japanese to be the reason that you think, my life is so hard. This language ruined everything for me. I'm never coming back to study it. Because it's a beautiful language. It's a fun study process. You're probably sponsored by Migaku or something, but what do you think of Animelon? I am sponsored by / I am affiliate of Migaku, but I only accepted it because I think it's a great product. I can see it blowing up, and it is something I legitimately love and use every day. Animelon's great, actually. I think actually, yeah, I asked someone who works at Migaku that it should work with Animelon. So just letting you know. But yeah, I actually use Animelon a lot. There were like jump scares where it almost went down because of copyright strikes, and it was just taking forever to load. And I was like, please, don't be crashed, don't be down. But yeah, so yeah, I would honestly say really good resource. For anyone who's not familiar, Animelon is just a database of anime, and you can watch the videos on there, like some other sites I won't get into because they're illegal. But they have full English subs, Japanese subs. You can turn on Romaji, kanji, hiragana, furigana, and just watch. And you can like kind of toggle any combination of them, whatever suits your studies. And you can click on the words and it'll tell you the meanings. So it has like on website supported lookups. So it's really good. I'd highly recommend it if you're not too savvy or wanting to set up all these tools. It's a really good website for that. How is your journey learning transitive and intransitive verbs? In addition to using wo and ga, some verbs are very similar, having the same problem with kaimasu and kaemasu. The first time I encountered those was in my high school class in a textbook. And that was fun. Like ugoku to move and ugokasu like to, well, it's weird. Ugoku is to move, but then ugokasu is to move something. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm already like, I can't really explicitly explain it, but my experience with it was like, what the heck? Why does this exist? Even though it exists in English, but instead of saying to move, we say to be moved. Instead of saying to eat, we say to be eaten. It's that easy. But dude, oh my gosh. Yeah, so what I did is I honestly just like explicitly studied that table that's in like Genki 2 in one of the earlier chapters. And that was it. Then eventually when I came back and started immersing, like I was able to recognize like, oh, this verb is just this transitive verb, but it's like, it sounds different. This must be the intransitive verb. And like, if you see a video of like someone pushing something versus an object getting pushed, like just looking at the subtitles and the characters on screen, for example, like you're kind of able to pick up on what they're trying to say. And like your ears pick up the sound of, oh, that verb is conjugated differently. This must be the intransitive version. So that was kind of my experience. Explicit study for a little bit, and then moving on to immersing and seeing it using context. So now most verbs that I see for the first time, I'll pretty much know like how it would be said for intransitive and how it would be used in wonga. So it's interesting. I actually made a mistake in one of my recent YouTube shorts where I was like, uchi no neko no shippo o yureteru, which means I shook my cat's tail. So shippo o yureru. So like that's to shake a tail. If I use wo, because shippo's tail, yureru is to shake. But if I said shippo ga yureru, the tail is shaking. So wo is usually like, it means you're affecting the thing that comes before it. And ga is just saying like the thing before the ga is doing the action after. Like that's really, and that's not even 100% accurate. That's just kind of generally how it works. So yeah, and then kaimasu and kaemasu. So you have to train your ears a little bit and also the context, right? So like, cause kaimasu means like basically I'm gonna buy, and kaemasu is like I can buy. So I guess if you're having a conversation with your friend and they're like, oh, you're gonna buy the Switch too? They might be like, kaimasu kedo, which is like, it could be I'm gonna buy it, but I don't know, or I could buy it, but I don't know. So with that context, it's close, but kaemasu, not kai, but kaemasu. It's very subtle, but In that context, it might be more like, oh, I could buy it, but I don't know. So yeah, it's really, Japanese you'll notice is a high context language. How do you deal with burnout? That's a great question. So in the past, I haven't been so good with burnout. I'll just wake up one day and loathe even like reading a Japanese character, and then I'll just stop studying. This actually happened, and I stopped studying for like 4 months, and it was painful because every day I didn't study, I knew like I wanted to. Like something inside me was like, dude, you got to study. What are you doing? And it just felt so painful because one half of me was like, dude, you got to study. You're not improving. You're actually getting like worse. Every day you're not studying. You're like losing progress. And the other half was like, I hate Japanese. I'm so burned out. I'm so tired of this. So I've gotten a bit better of picking out what burns me out. How do I feel right before I burn out? Like, what are the signs? So like for me, I go to bed at like 11 at night. If I'm staying up till 12 or 12:30 doing Anki cards and I'm like actually not having a good time, I'll just put the phone down and go to bed. Or even before that even happens, I will look at how my reviews are building up or how many words I'm adding a day and think, am I overdoing it? And am I chasing a number? A lot of people are like saying, oh, let's study 1,000 Japanese cards. Let's increase your vocabulary by 3,000 words per month. That's 100 words a day. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but that's just not realistic in my opinion. So I would have these sort of splurges of energy where I would do that. I would do 100 cards in one day, and I do 100 cards the next day. And maybe even the third day, I would do 100 new words. And then the fourth day would come by, and I'd have 800 cards waiting for me in Anki. So really just catch yourself. Are you chasing some number, or are you just free-flowing and enjoying Japanese content the way you want to? I think that's super important. Do you do Anki every day? I do Migaku every day now. But yes, I try to add around, I won't say try. I usually have been adding around 10 new words a day. I'll watch around 2 or 3 hours of, right now it's just gaming channels on YouTube. One's called Sanninsho. So I've been watching them play through Until Dawn in Japanese, which has been pretty cool. But I do that every day. What was the hardest part of learning Japanese? Ooh, this is a juicy one. The hardest part of learning Japanese, in my opinion, I'm going to say 2 here. I'm cheating, but kanji and pitch accent. So kanji is actually not that hard once you figure out the radicals and how they're pieced together and how you can kind of gather meaning from them. But it took me the longest time to figure that out because there's like a kokai means to regret, but kokai, and that's also pitch accent, can also mean to upload or publicize something, like a video, for example, right? So when I say like 動画を公開する is to upload a video, or 動画の公開を公開する is to regret the uploading of a video, right? You can see where that's confusing. The kanji for those are completely different, by the way, and that is something I couldn't get over. Also, the different readings for kanji. So like iku, if the ku after iku for ikimasu to go is u, it's actually read as okonao, and it means to carry out something. Or hiraku, to open, if you actually put an o before it and say ohiraki, it means to close out or like end a wedding or a banquet or a ceremony. Dude, what the heck, right? So there was that, and also just the pitch accent. Getting used to words such hashi and hashi, or like ame and ame, or like learning like heiban, where I say kore wa hana desu instead of hana desu, or I might even be getting that wrong right now. So yeah, pitch accent and kanji probably. This is a question I got from a member. They want to stay anonymous. I think I'm switching to monolingual on Anki. What do you recommend for this transition? So if you go to Moe's website, they have a good resource, and I'll actually put it in my Discord after the stream, but they have a good resource of monolingual dictionaries that I highly recommend. And once you've learned around 3,000 words from the core K-Dex, just like the 3,000 most common Japanese words, you'll be able to go through those definitions, the monolingual definitions of Japanese, and understand pretty much most of it. You may have to look up a couple words here and there, but after a little while, you'll be able to look at all your definitions of Japanese, which is pretty solid. I really want to start so I can stop translating in my head, but I'm worried it could end up taking too long, and I spend too much time on Anki instead of immersing. Well, buddy, reading dictionary definitions is immersing. So, you're good. What do you normally do if you don't know everything in the Japanese definition? Oh, perfect. Yeah, mine it. Or look up another word. Look up another example sentence online. Like Reyo, I think, an immersion kit. You can look up other sentences that contain that word. How to go from N3 to N2? Great question. So I actually failed the N2 twice and passed it on my third try. So what What I really did there was reading more. So what I would recommend doing is if you're at N3 right now, I'm going to assume that you have a certification, or if you don't, that you've taken practice exams and passed them pretty well. Try to take an N2 mock exam, like the full thing, even with time. Time yourself and stop yourself whenever you reach the time and see what your weak points are. I didn't do this, but I failed the JLPT N2 twice, so I knew where my weak points were, which, spoiler alert, it was reading. My listening was actually good because I love anime. I love watching dramas. You've probably seen in my videos how much I pushed like Kodoku no Gurume, like Solitary Gourmet. Like, oh my gosh. So my listening was really good, but my reading was weak. So I spent the next year reading. I think I read 2 novels. Well, I wouldn't say, I tried to read 2 novels. I actually read them after I passed the N2, but I was reading a lot of web novels and doing some visual novels, and also just watching a lot of anime with subtitles. And sometimes I would mute the anime and just use the visuals and the Japanese subtitles as my only sources of immersion. So I think that really helped boost my reading comprehension as well as my vocabulary. And then I did some like explicit studying through Nihongo no Mori. They're a really good resource. So Nihongo no Mori, so like Japanese forest of Japanese, but their N2 prep videos are all in Japanese. So it's still kind of immersion. It's geared towards foreigners, so it's not like catered to natives, but it's explained in like N3 or like low N2 level Japanese, which is pretty nice. So yeah, and then just like did 2 or 3 mock practice exams before the my third try on the N2, and that went pretty well. So that would be my recommendation. I'm just starting to learn Japanese, and when I come across similar words like kakureru and hisomu, my brain just went blank. Both mean hiding, but how to differentiate them. Yeah. Gosh, and I would also say, just for those examples, kakureru is probably to actually hide, and hisomu is more like of a lurking. Maybe someone with better Japanese can clarify here, but hisomu is more like a lurking kind of vibe. You'll notice me using the word vibe. It's because I have seen these words in their own context through watching anime and reading books. And seeing them used, and like I've seen these words probably, kakureru probably more, probably like maybe 20 to 30 times, and hisomu maybe, that one's a bit more rare, so maybe like 6 or 7 times. But just seeing it in 3 to 4 different contexts helps you kind of get an idea for like what the general meanings of those words are and the nuances. So that's how I would differentiate those 2 words specifically, if that's what you're asking. And if you want to kind of take care of more cases like that in general, just immerse, bro. No, but seriously, yeah, I would honestly just find more content you enjoy, or even look up, like I said, example sentences that have those words in them. You don't even have to save them. Like, literally just look them up and read through a little bit and be like, oh, okay, yeah, hisomu does give off that vibe of like someone lurking around, which is kakureru is just someone just hiding, like actively hiding behind a wall or around the corner. Not really kind of tiptoeing around, right? Have you finished Domestic Girlfriend? All right, we're just gonna ignore that. Watching your content, you sound really fluent. Do you have any tips or recommendations for how to improve speaking and sound more native? First of all, appreciate the compliment. Still working on that myself. But I did actually recently release a video called This Is What Makes You Sound Native in Japanese, where I cover the 3 different, I guess, increasingly nerdy levels of improving your accent. I have a pitch accent add-on. So this shows that it starts high. This is not live, it's live. So it means live, right? Namahoso. But yeah, so there's all sorts of add-ons. You can also just Google like pitch accent lookup. So I recommend watching videos. It doesn't have to be mine, but you can just look up videos on Japanese pitch accent, and you'll kind of figure out sort of the 4 different patterns. And you don't have to study for every word, because come on, that's a lot of work. I think once you learn to kind of listen for it and pick up on it, that is really all you need. Because once you know that certain words start high, like kore, that's a tamadaka. Kore, you'll hear it every time. It's a very common word. As you actually hear and listen for that pitch accent, you'll be good. You'll be able to start to imitate and mock it. I also recommend shadowing. So I picked a content creator that I really like. I like his voice. He's cool. And I don't do it that often, but sometimes I'll sit down for like 5-10 minutes and repeat after him. I might even play the video in a quarter speed or loop it and just keep repeating and repeating, reading his lines, and trying to like mock the vowels, the pronunciations, the pitch accent, the pauses in the language, because Japanese isn't like one smooth Eminem rap god flow. Like there are pauses, sort of how there are in English when I want to make a point and I pause, you know. But yeah, so that would be my recommendation. Is it really bad to learn anything else before you learn the entirety of hiragana and katakana? No, I don't think so. You can actually learn words using romaji or like English text, and that's totally fine. Because then what's going to happen is, like, let's just say sakana means fish, right? So if I learned it using literally sakana, that's fine. Because once I learn how to read hiragana, I'll read it and be like, oh, sakana. Oh, that means fish. I learned that when it was written with English letters. So that's totally fine. A lot of people do that. And I think that's a really good idea, actually. ただ、配信入ったので、もう聞いてたらすまんけど、日本語に言ったことある？それともいくつか行く予定ある？いつかな、いくつか。いつく行く予定ある？ Yeah, so I've been to Japan 4 times. First time was in high school for 2 weeks after winning a Japan Bowl, if anyone's familiar, competition. Or not winning, but getting like top 3. So, you know, if you're not first, you're last. But yeah, so I got to study there for, study there for a month actually. Second time I went back was the same thing, competition in high school. Stayed there for 2 weeks. Then I came back into study abroad in college at Waseda. I studied for 1 month, and the rest was just goofing around Japan for 3 months. And then I recently went again last winter, and that was fun. Yeah, that was definitely more fun because at that point my Japanese was better than it had ever been because that was most recent. So I was able to like rent a car, drive around Hokkaido. That was cool. And do I plan to go again? Yes, maybe this winter. I'm thinking, and I also want to start doing some vlogs in Japan in Japanese. I've been really wanting to do some camping vlogs in Japan. I think it's something that I'd really enjoy. So yeah, if you guys think that'd be fun, I can go ahead and start getting into those. But yeah, how to stop translating Japanese to English? I heard having English in the process makes it harder. That is right, in my opinion. It's sort of what people call a buffer. So think about it like this. Let's just say I was like, watashi wa Jared, right? I am Jared. My name's Jared. Now, if I heard that, watashi wa Jared, like right now, I know what that means. I'm not thinking about it in English, but a lot of people, and I used to do this, would be like, I is Jared. I am Jared, right? So you can see that also forces you to sort of like piece together a sentence in a very robotic way. So there's no really easy way to get over this other than just sort of taking content that you find easy-ish and has like a lot of words that you're familiar with and words that you know really well. And I would say that as you keep growing your vocabulary, literally just sit there and try not to translate. This has really helped me, close your eyes when you hear a Japanese sentence or play it over and over again and visualize it. Think in pictures, don't think in English. And if you're still struggling to think in Japanese, don't think in Japanese, right? Like if I said, I'm just going to say this in English, but first in Japanese, like, 犬が僕の足を噛んでた, right? The dog bit my leg. So instead of translating each word, just close your eyes and try to imagine that whole sentence as like an image of a dog biting your leg. As you do this more and more, your brain will be able to pop up more images with the words. You can even do the same for your Anki cards, actually. If you have like a word that's a noun, nouns are notoriously hard for nouns are known to be hard for like getting the definitions for. In terms of Japanese, they can have really long definitions, so I find having a picture really helps. How much is watching old J-dramas gonna hurt? Can't get enough of them, but I'm learning really outdated words, LOL. I don't know how old they are, but if you're talking about like early 2000s, I think you're fine. While a lot of those words and expressions might be outdated, it's still Japanese. So it'd be like me going back and watching shows from like the 70s. It's English. If I can understand those shows, I'll probably be fine in present day America or just present day English. But yeah, I would say that if anything, if I had to give any negative side to that, it would probably be just your output in terms of you might say a word and Japanese people might be like, But yeah. Like bonkyubon. Apparently, I've learned that's not said very much. Bonkyubon is basically just gyat in Japanese. Apparently, it's pretty outdated. I learned that the hard way. I don't want to go into it. But yeah, sorry if this was asked already, but what are the thoughts on the use of ChatGPT or similar chatbots to converse back and forth with in Japanese? I'm personally all for it if you can't consistently find a human language partner. But if you go on like disboard.com, I found some really good like ENXJP servers where you can just do language exchange. I've actually found like 2 or 3 Japanese friends now that I just call in Discord every week or every few weeks. And we'll talk in English for a little bit, and then we'll talk in Japanese, or I'll talk in Japanese and he'll talk in English, and we'll respond to each other. It's really cool. So yeah, I would say if you are kind of shy of talking to people and you want to start off with AI chatbots, that's totally fine. I don't see any downside. I wouldn't get used to it though, because I feel like the chatbots, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but can kind of cater to your level of speaking Japanese. So maybe it might get into the habits of saying some phrases and making it really simple Japanese to the point where you won't be improving as much, but I digress. One thing I wanted to ask but didn't know exactly how to word it is about Anki, sentence mining, and so on. I see a lot of people on Japanese Learner YouTube sort of get burnt out on Anki and sentence mining because of principles like do it every day and never miss your reps. But honestly, I really don't think Anki is that important anymore compared to just natural Anki or just continuously encountering stuff in the wild again and again. For context, the word Anki itself just means, I guess like repetition or, I don't know, I guess like memory. Like there's a word in Japanese like maru Anki, which is repeating until your like memory of something gets better. So Anki is just more like for memory. Point of reference is Akai Niki's newest video. I like Akai Niki. He does a lot of AJAT updates. Maybe not AJAT, like Anki and like Japanese updates. So highly recommend him. He's very underrated. Where he deletes his 10K word Anki deck. I saw that one. From mining because he found himself unable to pass many of his reviews. Again, I don't know how to bring this up as a question, but it's a topic I found interesting, and I really do think AJATers of the past few years focus on Anki a bit too much. Thoughts? I guess, Lil. Yeah, there are, I kind of touched on this a bit earlier, but there are definitely people who chase those numbers or chase hammering down on those reps. And I think, though, it's probably a bit easier, honestly, to pass your reps when you're earlier on in that study process because you're easing into it. You're learning a lot of those common words that you're going to hear a lot, so it's going to reinforce it. And you're going to get a lot of that natural Anki or repetition outside of studying actual Anki cards. When you get to those higher levels, or intermediate levels even, I feel like it becomes easier to do your reviews because you transition from watching specifically easy content that you may or may not enjoy over to, well, now you can watch more stuff because you know more Japanese. So maybe now I can finally watch or even play Silent Hill 2 Remake in Japanese because now my Japanese is good enough for that, right? Versus me watching like basically, trying to think of a good, like I guess like reading like Yotsubato, which is really good actually. That was a bad example because I love Yotsubato. But you can think though, if you have different interests, reading like a super easy manga versus playing one of your favorite horror, Konami, big title Japanese games, in Japanese, I think really it becomes you can kind of ease off of the Anki pedal and reviews because you're going to start consuming more content you legitimately enjoy. Optimal retention rate in Anki before increasing daily cards. I'd recommend 80 to 90%, honestly. Maybe 75 at the lowest. And for context, for anyone here who's not familiar, that's just like what percentage of your flashcards are you pressing the fail button on or the good button on? Do you track time? If so, what's your process like? I used to have a spreadsheet for tracking time, but as of now, I will just kind of watch YouTube and note the time mentally and kind of average it out. So it's not super accurate, but I do want to track time. I've been actually wanting to see if Migaku will eventually integrate a time tracking feature in their app. So it might be something I can bring up to them. But favorite type of media to immerse in? Ooh, right. Recently it's been Let's Plays, YouTube Let's Plays. Specifically horror games. I love horror stuff. Even in English, like I watched John Carpenter's The Thing probably like 7 times. I love horror movies. Oh my gosh. And games. So yeah, it's been cool watching playthroughs of games that I loved growing up, but like in Japanese now. So like it's been pretty fun. What's the best way to effectively memorize words in Anki and avoid forgetting them? Also, what method do you recommend for learning kanji? Best way to effectively memorize words in Anki is to immerse, bro. I'm so sorry I keep saying this, but if those words are in Anki, let's assume that you have those words in Anki as a core 2K deck, then study them, and once they're kind of in your head, go out there and immerse. Go out there and read some Japanese dictionaries. Go watch some slice of life anime, because then you're going to be hearing them more and more outside of Anki, which is just a natural way. It's a natural repetition system, which is pretty good. What method do you recommend for learning kanji? Either high stakes remembering the kanji or RRTK re-remembering the kanji would be really, honestly, my recommendation. It kind of shows you how to piece apart the kanji so that when you even see new kanji, you can be like, oh, that's just like this radical plus this kanji. It probably means this. You can guess it from like the meaning of other kanjis. What are your goals in learning Japanese? I want to reach a near native fluency so that I can go to Japan and function and make jokes and funny memories with all my Japanese friends, as if I had grown up there almost. I don't know. I just basically want to make more Japanese friends, get closer to them, and make good memories, good vibes, to keep it short, because that is a question I could talk about all night. Learn radicals instead of learning individual complex kanji. This is really true, and that's actually also what Heisei kind of touches on in RTK. What do you think is the single most important thing for Japanese learners to know? I like this question. Thank you. This is actually 7stop. Shout out to 7stop. He's another content creator in the AJAT Immersion learning community. He basically beat Japanese. He's done essentially. But he's cool. So yeah, I would say one thing that I struggle to understand, and that I really want you guys to know if you haven't gotten this yet, is that it's not a race. Japanese is not a race. It is a lifelong journey, and it can take you anywhere from 3 years to get fluent to 10, 20 years. But of course, that progress is not like linear, right? So you can get really good within, realistically, I guess, let's say you have a lot of time to study, maybe 2 or 3 years, you can get pretty decent. And then the rest of those years are just kind of fine tuning and also just filling in those gaps and learning some more specialized words. Like I think 7stop here, he did really good on the N1, which I'm just gonna use that as a benchmark. I think he's been studying for a little over 3 years now, or almost 3 years. So that's a good benchmark there. So I think it's just important to take it slow and enjoy the process, like anything. You don't want it to turn in from a hobby or a passion into a chore, right? So yeah, just keep it in mind that you're going bit by bit. Every word you learn, every kanji you learn is one little piece of this big mountain of Japanese you're building. So every day that you do that, you're adding a few more pieces to that and building your own little Japanese mountain. It's kind of how I like to visualize it. Do you think those JLPT test YouTube videos are a decent way of testing yourself? Just curious. The one in full Japanese, you know, the one with the chime and stuff. I think they are. If you're not used to when I was in Japan, this is when I took my second JLPT and I failed. I took it in Japan in the summer. I printed out these packets. I remember I went down to, everyone was looking at me. I went down to either Lawson or 7-Eleven and I printed out my, what was it? I literally printed out the entire, no, I printed out 3 JLPT and 2 exams, but I pressed the wrong option. There are these, I probably have a picture. There are these really big papers and I thought it said A4. It was like the size of my face and my whole chest. So I had 3 big packets just carrying around in the street of JLPT exams. It just had like all like the title and everything on the front and people were staring at me. So that was fun. So that's how I did it. Honestly though, if you don't want to waste paper or you want to be more convenient or even put the video on 2x speed if you're crazy like that, I mean, yeah, I think it's worth it. As long as it's timed and it's formatted like the real exam, gives you a good experience, I think it's worth it. I have a trip to Japan in 2 months and I've been studying for the past 30 days, grinding 8 hours a day. I learned hiragana and katakana and just finished Genki 1, but I haven't been learning the kanji since I'm afraid it would take too much time. Would it be fun to start learning kanji after my trip, or would it be too hard to restart learning vocab and kanji? I find it very difficult to memorize kanji, but it's an important aspect of the language. My goal is halfway through N4 by my trip. I mean, let's think about your trip. If you're going to restaurants, you're going to be reading the menus. And I think, here's what I actually did. When I went to Japan early on, I'll let you on a little trick. Yeah, when I looked at the menus, I couldn't read the kanji. So I'd look at the waiter and be like, "Osusume wa arimasu ka?" Do you have a recommendation? And then we'd have a conversation in Japanese. I didn't have to read, you know, all I had to read was the lips. And they'd be like, "Oh, well, you know, I really recommend like the soba's really good." And I'd be like, "Okay, let's do the soba then." And I would be able to order food that I didn't even have to read the menu for. Like I just had a conversation and boom, there's my food. Didn't have to read. So that's cool. You can test your conversations while you're there and kind of try to steer away from reading. But yeah, I don't think you'd have to worry too much. You're totally fine to start learning kanji after your trip, as long as you don't think you're gonna miss out on anything like kanji wise during your trip. I think you'll be fine. It won't be too hard. I think if you do a little bit of studying there, or like honestly just go out of your way to try to read stuff or talk to people, that way you kind of keep your progress if you're not going to study while you're in Japan. But yeah, that's a good goal. That's a lot of grinding. Don't burn yourself out. And yes, I feel that it is very difficult to memorize kanji. 国語目学んだ言語は日本ですか？なぜ日本語を選んだか教えてくれませんか? Is Japanese the only is Japanese your first non-native language you've been studying? And if so, why did you choose Japanese? I chose Japanese because I loved anime and I thought it'd be cool to watch without Japanese subtitles. I stayed for the Japanese because I found out how fun it is to go to Japan and talk to people and get drunk and go talk to people and salarymen at bars and make friends and enjoy the culture and the people there. Can you give some advice on tackling grammar study, please? I actually made a video about this, best way to study Japanese grammar. So feel free to check that out when the stream's over. Quick guide though. Yeah, literally just speedrun like a grammar guide online like Tai Kim or Sakubi, Sakubi, and read through stuff. Maybe not even all the chapters. You could scroll through all of them and start increasing your vocabulary. And that's pretty much it. Then you would just start consuming easy content and building your way up. And as your vocabulary increases, your grammar knowledge also just increases because grammar is just words. And you'll be able to watch more and more complex content and learn more and more complex words. 日本で働いて住みたいですから日本語を勉強しています。JLPT N3 がいいですか? Actually, yes. I've heard. So they're asking. They want to live and work in Japan. Is the JLPT N3 going to be enough for that? I would say yeah. N2 is preferable. You don't have to go for N1. It's mainly a flex at that point. But yeah, if you do N3, you're going to be finding a lot of people doing English teachers in Japan through the JET program, or also a lot of people will do a language school there and also be able to work and get sponsored and also like work at convenience stores or at restaurants part-time to also make a living. And so once you go to those language schools, you can grind, get your N2 certificate, and then get a specialized visa through a company, and then work full-time in a more technical role, or just any role that's more aligned with, I guess, whatever you've studied or want to go into. Does the JLPT cost money to take, and do you have to take it in person? So, yes, it costs money. I think for me, over here in the States, it's around $100. I think it is actually just exactly $100. And then I drive there with my friends, I carpool, so I have to pay for that. And then, yes, it has to be taken in person because it's proctored, it's official. Do you think you'll try to learn another language in the future when you feel your Japanese is at a high enough level? That's actually a great question. I think I'd like to. I think I'd want to start learning probably when my Japanese feels near native, which, yeah, I know that could take years and years, but yeah, I almost feel like I'm cheating on Japanese if I try to study another language. It makes me feel guilty. But yeah, I think a language I'd want to learn after this is probably Tagalog, which is a language spoken. Well, there's also Cebuano, but one of the languages spoken in the Philippines. I don't really have this urge to learn like Korean or Chinese as much as a lot of other Japanese learners have kind of gotten. Do you know how to write Japanese, and do you think it's necessary? Because if you're taking a class in Japanese, you have to translate in your head to English notes. I do know how to write in Japanese to an extent, so I can write hiragana, katakana, and I can probably write about, oh goodness gracious me. Oh, maybe right now from like memory by hand, I probably can't write more than do like 50 kanji, but I can read like 2100-ish probably. So I think if I read enough, I'd be able to get to writing again. But like, let's say you're in Japan and you're taking a Japanese class, or your class is in Japanese. If you try to take your notes in English and translate, you're just putting yourself in this bubble where you're going to get this habit of just translating all the time and kind of hiding out in your English bubble, which I think is sort of like mottainai, which is like in Japanese, just kind of like, that's kind of a waste of good opportunity. Like, let's just say you are in Japan and you're studying abroad. I mean, you know, it's just going to be way more worth it in my opinion, honestly, if you act like you're a Japanese student. Literally take your notes in Japanese. If you don't know a word, go talk to the professor after. That's good conversation practice. Ask your Japanese friends. Make Japanese friends. Take your notes in Japanese. Look up the words later. There's so many things you can do to get the most out of your experience there. So I would say it's worth it. Yeah, there's this stigma that like you need to wait until you speak Japanese, or else you're going to develop bad habits. I would say this is true to an extent, but only like if you start speaking from day one or from like month one, then I can see that. I think I had this bad habit of just saying like nan desu ka, but I added to the end of sentences. So like so nan desu ka. Like I had to sit in. I'm not gonna give too much context because but I had to sit in with my Japanese boss one time when I worked somewhere, and he was like, "Hey, do you know stealing's bad?" And I was like, "Oh, so nan desu ka," which translates, instead of saying so desu ka, like, "Oh, is that so?" I was like, "Oh." Now that you mention it, you're right. Yeah, stealing is bad. That's what I said because I added nan desu ka at the end. I didn't even think about it. It was just tacked on because I wanted to make my Japanese a longer sentence to sound better. So that was another conversation that stemmed from that. So be careful. When starting Anki, how long should it take to get the first few words? I feel like I have to hit again quite often. If you see the same word like 3 or 4 times, it should typically stick. I'm not really an expert on like the retention rates or whatever, but yeah, if you're starting out, if you're pairing Anki with some language studies and maybe doing a little bit of reading from easy graded readers or textbooks while increasing your vocabulary, it should retain easier because you're using Japanese outside of Anki. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. I can get a bit more deeper on that if you'd like. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, go ahead and leave a like, and if you loved it, feel free to subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so right here by becoming a member backer or just doing a super thanks. And as always, thanks for joining the video. So keep immersing, keep learning, and keep grinding. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. And your stream will stop immediately and you will no longer be live. I'm sorry, I just clicked the button. Yes, that's the point of ending a stream. Oh my goodness, YouTube. Okay, bye guys. Bye.